Hello friends, today we are going to see how to create multi-language application in MVC3 Razor syntax. Now to create a multi-language application, we have following requirements. We need resource files to store text in different languages, one file for each language. Now suppose you are going to support your application in French, German and Spanish language, and you need to have three different resource files for each language. And we need to override execute core method of controller class. Now ExecuteCore is a virtual function in controller class, and this method is called before uh, every action result method of that controller. So before calling any action result method, this ExecuteCore method is called. Now we need to use cookies to store and pass data from view to ExecuteCore method. Now when you select language in the drop down, we are going to store that language in a cookie, and so that we can get that selected value in the drop down to the ExecuteCore method. Cookie will act as a bypass to pass data from the view to the ExecuteCore method, and we need to change the culture of current thread depending upon the drop down selection. Now the language name from the cookie is extracted at the ExecuteCore method, and that depending on that we are going to select the current culture and we are going to set the current culture. Now let's see through application how it looks. The application level, we have a register class, we have some properties defined to be used on the form, and multi-language application in the sense we are just going to have a register form, and we are going to change language. And let's first go through the application, run the application and see how it looks like. uh, we are running the application. Now this is basically a simple form. Now let me select the current language as English. Now the current language is English, and you can see these text: first name, last name, age, email, password, register form, and welcome to register form will change as you change the language. Now this is French, right? The text changes to French language, German, and finally the Spanish. This is basically a simple small application we built, and we are going to see what we have done to build this application. Now foremost, let us create data for the form. Now we have a register class with all these 5 properties. Now at the view level, we have this form created over here. Now as discussed while reading the document, we are going to have resource files. So we have created a multi-resource folder. In that we have 4 resource files, one for each language. Now currently we are supporting 4 languages, one English that is by default, and 3 other languages. So for resource file name we need to follow some protocols. Now for English language we just gave name multi.resx. Now according to the protocols, for any other language other than English, we need to give name in this way, that is multi.fr.resx, multi.es.resx. So that will help the current thread to pick the text from. So when you open it and see, this is basically multi.resx for English. Here all the keys have been defined in an XML tags, and for FR the similar keys have been used, and but the value tag will have the value according to that language. Similarly we have for Spanish, and similarly for German. Now when we are going to use this on the form on the view level, we are going to first add a reference to that multi-resource folder. Then we can use this multi class and we can get the welcome message key. So by this way, using this key, we are going to access the text values. Now when the culture is English, it will pick from the English resx file. When the current culture is FR, then it will pick the text from FR file. So this way it goes. This way how multi-language works. Now let us check the controller part. When you add any new controller, you will always find a controller class inherited over here. But for now, we are creating a custom class that is multi-base. That is in the helper folder. We have created one multibase.cs class. This is basically an abstract class, and this class is inheriting controller class. So in this class, multibase class, we are overriding one ExecuteCore method. What this ExecuteCore method does is, this method is called each and every time before calling this index method. So what we are going to do in this method is, we are fetching the cookie value. Okay, let's see what cookie does. Now when you select anything in the drop down, basically this is the drop down. Okay, first the index method is called here, and we have view data view back prepared for us, and we are entering it at the view level. And when the selection is made, we are basically creating one cookie, that is language.change. Here on the change function, we are getting the language text, and we are creating a cookie with that language selected, and we are refreshing the page. Now when the page gets refreshed, this multi-base method is called. Okay, so we are fetching the drop down value from the cookie, that is culture cookie, and the switch view, we are checking if it's English, then our current culture is ENUS. If it's Spanish, our current culture is ES, and if it's German, then our current culture is DE, and so on. And then using the thread class, we are setting the current culture as the culture name, that is we are getting from the switch loop, and we are just setting the current culture, and we are calling the base.ExecuteCore. So finally, after executing this entire method, our controller hits the index method, and the index view is rendered, and this time the view will be rendered in the language you selected in the drop down, because depending on the value of the drop down, we have set the current culture. Now let's see, by putting the debuggers, we'll see how it works. Now I choose language to English, let me refresh the page. Now current language is English. Now suppose I choose French. I chose French. The debugger hits the change event. We get the language as French. Now we have created a cookie with language name as French, and we are refreshing the page. On page refresh, it comes to ExecuteCore method, and it fetches the culture name, fetches the entire culture cookie. The value it gets it is French. Now inside the switch loop, in case French, it gets the current culture current name as FR, And finally we are setting current culture as French, FR, and base.executeCore method is called. And then finally we come to the index method, and you can notice in this home controller we are inheriting multi-base, the class which we have created, that is the abstract class, and this abstract class further inheriting controller class. So now when you, if you fi, you can check all the text have been transformed into French. Now if you select English again, the same step follows and the language is now English. Now if you change it to another language, say German, so it will get, text will get transformed to German language. So this is how we can create a simple form or simple application, multi-language application that supports multi-language in MVC3 Razor. Thank you.